Thank you, Steve. Thanks and good morning. Welcome all to this this slightly strange virtual TTF forum. I think you've got as Steve said, we've got a very interesting agenda, and I look forward to an interesting day. So, the connected vehicle data research that Jill is going to talk about. This is a piece of work that Atkins, Jacobs, and Andy Graham, White Willow Consulting, did for us earlier in the year, that reported in the summer, and that we were able to publish a few days ago on the DFT website. So this really came from an understanding in government that we need to think about connected vehicle data. Now, obviously, many of you will know we have an organisation called CCAV, the Centre for Connected and Autonomous Vehicles, who think quite deep thoughts about the future of connected vehicles and autonomy, and think very much about automotive and how vehicles will work, and how vehicles will work with the highway systems, how automotive will develop. They work with Zenzig and others in the sector who are thinking about technology. But there's a clear gap in understanding not just what the vehicles will do, and not just what the capacity of the vehicles will be in the future, but how those vehicles will interact with the infrastructure, and how those vehicles and how the arrival of connected vehicles will impact on the way that we do things as highway authorities. It'll change the way we do things. It'll make some things difficult. It'll make some things easier. It'll potentially allow us to offer new services. It will give us new customer demands to respond to. It will see people expecting their vehicles to be able to do more, expecting changes in road safety, expecting changes in the way we operate networks. These are all challenges that we face, and we felt that in between where we are now and the sort of future focused work that CCAV and Zenzig and others are doing, there's a piece of work required to understand that relationship between connected vehicles and the infrastructure. And this isn't necessarily about the future. This is about now. This is about the fact that most vehicles now are connected in some way, to some degree. There is some data available from a very large portion of vehicles on the network. So what are the opportunities for that? What could we be doing with that now? What steps could government be taking? What policy should government be thinking about? What opportunities are there to fund research and development to make the best of that? Now, it's a complicated picture. There's a lot we can do. There's a lot happening in Europe. There's a lot happening among the vehicle manufacturers. There's a lot happening in the various funded projects in the UK, such as UK CITI and A2M2, and the work that we funded in the CITS pilots. There's an awful lot of bright fires burning in the forest, but there was no real clear view of what this all meant and where we should go as we move from pilots, and as we thought about how this technology would play out on a wider scale. There's no real clear view of what that would look like. So this piece of research, which was invaluable, and and the result we've got is excellent, as you'll hear from Jill, has given us a view of where we should be going, given us some things to think about in terms of where policy and where funding should be going. Now, some of you maybe have been aware that we looked to fund some of the outcomes of this through the comprehensive spending review, and we hoped to be able to fund a trial on a large, possibly regional scale of the types of things that Jill's going to outline. But unfortunately, as again, many of you will know, the comprehensive spending review this year didn't happen in the form we hoped it would, and that's not proved possible. But that doesn't mean things have stopped. We will still be looking to take parts of this forward. We will still be looking for funding through future fiscal events. We will still be looking to use some of our existing research budget to pick off some of the interesting parts of this going forward. So this will very much form the basis of our interaction with the community over the coming years. And of course, many of you are here in the forum because you were part of those initial CITS pilot projects. Well, this research will guide how that moves forward and what the next round of projects and funding and initiatives looks like. So this is a very important piece of work for us all in this transport technology community. So with that introduction, I'd like to hand over to Jill to talk through what you found.
Excellent, thanks, Darren. So yeah, if we go straight on to the next slide, I think. So this is just an overview of the project as a whole, and it was based around a hypothesis that the DFT asked us to investigate, which is basically that connected vehicle data will provide intelligence that will help plan and operate a better road transport network with lower cost and will provide a wide range of benefits. So that was the basis for the project, basically. And then the text at the bottom I'm not going to read out, but this was just to emphasise, as Darren said, we wanted to use the widest possible definition of what a connected vehicle is, because the vast majorities of vehicles at the moment are connected in some way, and we can start making use of that immediately. Obviously, horse might be a little bit facetious, but it was just to emphasise how wide we wanted to take the definition of connected vehicles. So the project had 4 basic stages. So the first one was a consultation and evidence review that was led by Andy Graham, who's on the call. And we consulted with a very wide range of stakeholders and used all of the evidence plus a literature review as well to perform some analysis of what value connected vehicle data can bring, because that is the sort of driver for doing this, that it brings value. And then based on that, we started thinking about what the themes of the strategy needed to be to maximise that value, and then took that into some more detail about the action plans that we wanted to propose. So next slide, please. Okay, so the first thing we started thinking really right at the start of the project was that we needed a clearer way of talking about connected vehicles so that we all have a common language. Obviously, the European CITS day 1 and day 1.5 services are great, but they're really quite complicated to wade through all the detail that's available. And that's not helpful when we want local authorities to have a shared understanding of what connected vehicle data is. So we identified these 7 service groupings, and the idea is we've not thrown away any of the CITS day 1, day 1.5 services, but they're all covered in these 7 groups, and these 7 groups are really, I think, easy to understand, which I think is really important to help us. Things for local authorities reductions basically in having to maintain parking services, go out and collect money from parking meters because payment is done online, and so there's big potential savings there, as well as improved revenue from more people using parking. And again, that is actually already happening now. There's been several trials and implementations that are already saving money for local authorities. So those 2 are really key to the strategy and progressing that. And then some of the others, so pro vehicle data, suppliers like TomTom and Inrix and Here will already provide floating vehicle data that local authorities are already using in control centres to have much better intelligence about what's happening on the road network. So again, this is something that's already happening. Potentially the savings are relatively low. There's benefits that it could be easier to optimise traffic signals and that sort of thing, and it will help improve congestion. So the economic benefits of improved congestion are actually higher. And then obviously the longer term for pro vehicles is having more safety critical applications, so pro vehicles providing hazard alerts about various things, which could have really high benefits. That's not here now, but it's there's a clear path to that. So the next one, in-vehicle messaging, obviously is not around yet because we haven't yet fixed the issue of how to get messages into vehicles, but the potential economic benefits from improved safety and congestion are high, so it's a really key item. Signal and phase and timing is an interesting one because there's that's been well trialed and tested in the UK. It's been around for years and years in the Netherlands. The only thing is that at the moment it's not fully clear to us what the benefits are for the UK, so that needs more investigation basically. But it's technically feasible now, so it's not very far away, but we do need to better understand the benefits of that. And then the last two are included partly because of the strategic importance. So related to future mobility urban strategy, vulnerable road users and public transport are really key strategic objectives. And unfortunately, at the moment, these two things don't have as many obvious, clear use cases that are already really well trialled, but they still need to be a real priority, we believe. Cycling, there is cycle counters and traffic signals can count cyclists and that sort of thing, but there's not really clear, obvious, immediate savings, which is why the benefits that we can see at the moment are there as low. And the same with bus. So interestingly, buses have actually probably been the connected vehicles for the longest of anything, because bus location data has been around for years, since before I was a transport consultant 20 years ago. So, but the use cases again could be expanded heavily through having much better connectivity and helping it to support applications like mobility as a service and that sort of thing. And the Bus Open Data Service initiative that DFT has been running will support that. But again, the immediately obvious benefits are low, but we feel that they need to be prioritised. So next slide, please. So I guess the value analysis demonstrated to us that the hypothesis that DFT asked us to investigate is absolutely true. We have showed clearly that there is huge value to be gained from connected vehicle data, and the benefits are for the economy, cash savings for authorities, and for growth and GDP. So we turned that into a vision of how we want to use connected vehicle data to better plan and operate the network. And then from there, we realised that the strategy needs to encourage the use of all 7 service groupings. So the strategy, we wanted it to be heavily based on making sure that all 7 of these groups can be used and increased by road authorities. And then we turned that into the 6 action plans, which I will briefly touch on now. So if we go on to the next slide again, please. Great. So of the 6 action plans, the first one is a very large regional, large scale, at scale demonstrator of using connected vehicle data. And the idea is to achieve this through a public-private collaborative partnership to improve traffic management technology and the use of connected vehicle data. And the idea behind this was that we've done all, as Darren said, we've done all the trials, we've proved the feasibility of this stuff, but we really need a step change. So we need to start showing the public and private organisations and public sector that this is, can happen now and can bring benefits. And you can't do that by having a few more trials. It has to be a really big step. So that was the idea behind Talking Traffic UK, and it was based on something very similar that the Dutch government has done. So there was a Talking Traffic in the Netherlands, which was a big €80 million euros project that installed quite a lot of new technology, but also, I mean, the big thing about it was there was so many public sector and private organisations involved to bring about the step change. And so the idea was that we should use that and build on the learnings from the Dutch idea to get this, big step change in the UK. So next slide. Okay, and then these were the other 5 action plans. And so with these, the key idea was that you can do talking traffic, and 3 years later it would, continue, and the central investment would stop. But that alone is not enough without providing extra support to authorities in different ways. So all of these other 5 activities were intended to support the talking traffic UK idea. And these are quite a lot about upskilling and helping authorities to have better information at hand. So the first one, actually, around establishing national facilities, we thought, so part of that is around DFT continuing to improve and develop standards and support the use of standards. But also we thought, if DFT could act as a central procurement route for let's say floating vehicle data, that could make it much easier for authorities to access floating vehicle data. If they didn't have to individually all investigate how can we get some floating vehicle data, if there was a really easy route that had been put in place for them by the DFT, that could be really helpful to rapidly escalate the use of some of these types of data. And then migration and legacy is all around, we don't want authorities to have to throw away all their existing technology. It's just not affordable. So there has to be a really clear route to migrate Scoot and Mover and asset management and all that sort of thing to use connected vehicle data without having to invest huge amounts of additional money on top of what's already been invested over many years in traffic technology. And then the 2 on the right hand side are all about providing much better information and advice and help on where to find information that will help people write business cases, all that sort of thing, just to make it much easier for authorities to start to progress these solutions. And then finally, the last one is kind of a central place that contains all the information an authority might need to access to work out how to do introduce a connected vehicle data service or group of services based on their user requirements. And next slide. So this was the last one, and I won't read out everything on the slide, but basically the conclusions was there is great value for traffic management from connected vehicle data. It's already available. Technology is not really the barrier. The thing that's the barrier is the institutions and business models. And we think that we need to provide an economy of scale rather than each authority having to do things individually. The talking traffic, excellent example. Ideally, that will give us a real at-scale demonstration. And the UK is leading globally on some of this stuff, and so let's make the best of that, basically. But we do need to help authorities with upskilling and improving their knowledge through training and guidance. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. Now, we've had quite a few questions have come in on the live event Q&A, and according to my notes from the Arup team, we have precisely less than 1 minute to deal with them. But I want to pick up, so we won't lose the questions. I think we're going to make the slides from all the presentations available on the TTF website. So if people weren't able to keep up, they'll be able to have a look at a course. Click the link and go and have a look at the full report where there's more detail about, for example, how things were costed. The question, I'm going to paraphrase the one that came in, which is, you've made a recommendation there about the Department for Transport performing something of a data aggregator role. But what did you assume in your costings of what it would cost authorities to access data, bearing in mind that as of today, there isn't a data aggregator and they might need to go to multiple sources?
Yeah, absolutely. You're testing me on the technical detail of something that I did back in the summer. But I think we
You can have notice of that question if you like, and we can come back to it at the panel at the end of the morning.
Ace.
Let's do that, because there is one other I wanted to squeeze in. Again, you might want some thinking time, but when you were coming up with national level figures, how did you take account of the very different circumstances that are faced by an urban highway authority and perhaps a rather more rural urban highway authority?
Yeah, so that is a bit easier. We used examples from trials and various activities, and then we had to, you know, this was quite a high level analysis, so we did make assumptions, and we also did sensitivity testing to, you know, accept the fact that we couldn't provide a precise value for every single situation. We had to kind of make some generalizations and use those.